In a world where A-Dub and E-Ray have left their mics, a man emerges from Bill and Ted's phone booth that also kind of looks like a DeLorean to give the people what they didn't even know they needed. He captivates the masses with his stories of quantum leaping from one wrestling era to another, comparing and contrasting the wrestling world of old with the wrestling world of today in only the way he can. Ladies and gentlemen, Let Me Book the Territory proudly presents The B.A. Show, featuring Sean from Fourth Rope Wrestling, powered by the Embrace the Turn Up Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of the eldest of ages, no, this is not the illustrious E-Ray, the side god of pod. This is actually B.A. DiBiase in the building, taking over the A mic for once, getting to talk his shit, get his shit off without the interruptions of the normal fellas. What this is Let Me Book the Territory presents the B.A. Show, featuring my homeboy Sean from Fourth Rope in the building. Sean, tell the people what's up.
Man, how you doing, man? You know, I've been on Let Me Book like, what was it, 2 or 3 times now, so I'm not, yeah, exactly. I'm not a familiar face, but it'll be a lot more familiar here on out, so.
Because
I'm grateful.
Absolutely, no doubt, bro. You don't got more than grateful. I would say excitement is in the air because I'm definitely grateful too. That's definitely there. But as the Let Me Book the Territory conglomerate continues to grow, the fellas and myself thought it'd be a good idea to kind of create a side venture of sorts to where I can kind of talk my shit. We always kind of joke about me quantum leaping through different time periods of wrestling history. So I figured no better way than to kind of timestamp my visits than to go back and talk about these events. And no better event than to start off with would be the event that happens after WrestleMania. No, not Backlash. Not Backlash. I know we're all like, no, what's up with Backlash? WrestleMania Backlash? What is it? Backlash this year? No. We're actually going to go back to a time in the year 1998 for a little pay-per-view called Unforgiven. Took place on April 26th of that year in Greensboro, North Carolina. 20,000 strong reported. Who knows what the actual number was? They love to inflate their numbers at the Federation at the time, now the E. But yes, this was a very interesting time in the WWF / soon to be E after this. Would you agree, Sean?
This was a really interesting time because this is coming over, kind of getting away from that old feeling of those old wrestling gimmicks, and coming in strong to that Attitude Era type deal with the new DX. You had some callbacks to like old school NWA territory with the Midnight Express and the Rock and Roll Express and things like that. You saw China. I always loved China. God bless her soul, but seeing China in any type of fashion, she's one of my favorite women's wrestlers, top 3, I would say. So it was definitely an interesting time in the Federation. We're going to get more into it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. On top of, just like you said, a lot of different changes going on at the time. Like us kind of, or not us, I'm not working for these motherfuckers. They ain't paying me. Them saying or getting into that away from like the gimmicky, the new generation time frame of the WWF, more into the Attitude Era, where you had Vince wearing that Raw's War jacket, in-ring promos. This is when Vince was getting away from the commentary table where we were used to seeing him at all during our, at least me and Sean, I can speak for ourselves, our childhood, where he was behind the table with Gorilla and Mr. Perfect and whoever else. But yeah, like I said, like you said, and I'm gonna continue to reiterate, it was a different time for the Federation. Still privately owned, meaning they can get away with a lot more than they can today, with a lot of things. As I'm sure if anybody has watched this show in recent memory, which I would highly recommend, if you guys have a Peacock subscription, and if you're overseas or using the VPN, the network, RIP, for us in the States.
Man, I think it was great.
Man, I love the network. Make me want to go grab a VPN myself, man. That's a sponsorship in the future. Got to crawl before we walk. But
We'll get there.
yeah, for sure. But yes, that whole time frame, like not only just getting, like I said, the new generation out of there, they had just recently changed the logo. Literally, WrestleMania 14, which the WrestleMania was before this pay-per-view, was the last time we will see the legendary Winged Eagle belt before it was gone officially, and it became the global, I call it the global belt, because I feel like the WWE at a time frame, this is where they were trying to be more globally recognized on their bid to be publicly owned or be a public company. Publicly traded, yeah. Publicly traded company, thank you. In the future. So I always like to read like as a marker to where this is where the game changed for them officially. They got out of the private game and got into the big boy, the big boys play, as they used to say over in the WCW. But yeah, this pay-per-view, no HBK. HBK took his ball and went home right after WrestleMania 14.
He lost his smile.
He lost his smile. He was kind of pouting. And it really kind of makes me a little, not upset, but more what could have been if he was more in a right state of mind, like when he comes back in 2002, I think it is, when he has that feud with Triple H. One of a great SummerSlam, which I'm sure we'll review down the road. But I really wonder what that match could have been. Not to say it was a terrible match, it got the job done. But when you go back and watch that WrestleMania match, there's a lot to be desired there. And I don't know if you watched it in recent memory, Sean, that main event, but what's your thoughts about that?
So Shawn Michaels is like a really touchy subject with me for a wrestler, because growing up, ruthless aggression was, the bread and butter of my childhood, really. Okay. So that comeback for Shawn Michaels was a really big thing, because I never got to enjoy him, in his heyday when he was doing all these matches with, Razor Ramon and things like that. Yeah. He was like the cocky pretty boy deal, which, he still kind of acted like that upon
that
his
was
return.
my childhood Shawn.
Exactly. That was you. So me, I got the return HBK. That's what I got. And that's what I knew prominently. So going back and seeing and hearing about the struggles that he had with, addictions, the injury to his back, and, things like that kind of took him out the game. He found God and, came back to it. It left, like you said, a little bit to be desired. It got the job done, but you just do sit there and wonder what if, he kept a little bit. He was more in the right state of mind, didn't get through didn't, sustain the injuries and things like that. He was full force. I think it would have been a completely different story with us talking about where HBK lands in history, to be honest.
Oh, for sure. I mean, but the thing is, like, HBK is kind of like one of them dudes, like a bad example, but Barry Sanders didn't have to have a super long career, but he's great. But HBK kind of had two separate careers in that life, so more like a MJ, so to speak. But regardless, I bring up the whole HBK thing just because I feel like Austin should have had a better crowning moment, considering what he meant for the WWE and still does. As far as what his merch sales do, anytime he shows his face anywhere, anytime you hear "Give me a hell yeah," what pop that gets, it's wild that, in my eyes, I feel like he should have had a better crowning moment. But all revisionist history, as this whole show is.
Absolutely.
Right. So we might as well just start off with the card, man. So match 1, 3-man tag. We had the Nation of Domination. Shout out to the Nation of Discrimination. Date me book. Consisting of The Rock, Intercontinental Champion The Rock. Very heavy into his Rocky Sucks gimmick as far as the huge heel energy. D'Lo Brown, one of my favorite mid-carders of the time, and the illustrious world's strongest man, soon to be sexual chocolate, Mark Henry, accompanied to the ring by
Godfather.
Sean, Kama Mustafa still. This is, like I said,
Mustafa.
This is a weird
Kama
period
Mustafa.
for the Federation, man. Like, you had a lot of stuff that you can see it about to happen. Like we'll get into it as we get through the card, but you can see the Godfather origin of what he was wearing because he was dressed like he was about to be gone. Like he looked like, he looked like one of my uncles, like one of my old school uncle's friends. Like
exactly.
Old head.
That's why it caught me with the Godfather. That's what I know him by, as the Godfather.
Oh, I understand, no doubt, no disrespect there. But they were taking on the most random 3-man tag, unless you were watching this live in a living color at the time, of Farouk, Ken Shamrock, and Mr. 80s action star before the OG 80s action star and Hard Justice White Blade now, Steve Blackman. So from what I collected, and this is just from what I remember, this is when they turned on Farouk, when The Rock had took over as leader of the nation, solidifying his heel run. You can go and watch Young Rock for that, all that individual take. We're not here for how The Rock perceived this time frame. How me and Sean perceived it is what we talking about. So the number one thing that stuck out to me was, as far as the entrances go and the reception, it's mad energy, mad heel energy. Low-key nuclear as far as the reaction. Like, the crowd was really into booing them, albeit a different time now than what we're used to seeing now, more around like the curtain jerker matches as they say. But yeah, what was your thoughts on like the reactions from the crowd at the time?
I'm a big entrances guy. I think that's like big. Presentation is big with a wrestler, and entrances is like damn near half of that, in my opinion. Yeah. So with the Nation, their stuff hits. They got hard hitting music with those heavy drums and the the scruffy voices in the background. And then exactly. And then you got they're walking out in the black with the colors on, and you see The Rock talking shit to everybody in the crowd, and Mark Henry just beat. Yeah, bro. It's like The Rock at that point was like just nuclear heat, like you said. And people love to hate him, so I mean, he embraced it. It's almost like what he did when he went Hollywood Rock, how he just embraced the hate. Yes, how they tried to force him on a babyface, and they're just like, well, fuck it. If they hate you, you might as well hate them back and embrace it. So the reaction from the Nation, I love a good heel entrance. I think one of my favorite ones, Jeff Jarrett at Flair's last match. If no one has ever seen that entrance, that is probably one of my favorite heel entrances. And so the Nation gets it done when we're talking about the reaction from crowds.
Nice. Shout out to A-Dub. Anytime Jeff Jarrett's brought up on this show, I'm always going to shout out Dub, because Devil J is a very touchy subject with the tribal pod chief. Anytime he's brought up, because why is he still in our television? But we're going to talk about the origin stories. You can hear a lot of Double J and involved in this show too.
Exactly. You're going to hear some Double J tonight.
That's funny enough. Speaking of entrances, as you said, Sean, one thing that stuck out from the baby faces and Shamrock, Farouk, and Stevie Blackman was Kid and Steve Blackman with the fist in the air. And to begin, I'm like, are they the OG Codys out here? Like, they was down with the cause before them being cool. To be down with the cause is cool. That popped me low key.
Yeah, when you flanking Farouk like that, man, you got to be down with the cause. You
can't be around like, you allowed to do
around.
This? Oh shit, that was funny as fuck.
That was funny as hell.
Oh yeah. As far as the match goes, again, different as far as what you expect from a today's type of openers. It was very slow and plotty. They got a lot of time too. They got about like 15, 18 minutes roughly.
A lot of time. A lot of these matches on the card that you're really gonna see got a lot more time than really what you're used to nowadays. Because a lot of them are, I'm not saying they're no thought out masterpieces or anything like that, but they're gonna have a lot more time. It was slow and methodical. A lot of back and forth and things like that. Yes. They tried to play out the story really well with, Farouk and the personal beef between, getting turned on and things like that. So there was a little bit of story to the match, which I think kind of made it slow and methodical. I was fine with it personally, just because, I'm familiar with everybody in the match. I'm always an enjoyer of pre-People's Champ Rock. That's a different era to indulge in. So
for sure.
That's where I'm at with that one.
No doubt. That was like you just said, it was very slow and plotty, and just kind of like they like you said, these shows are different. They're not trying to squeeze in 12 matches on the card. They got to drag this out. It seemed to be, because if at least when my brain remembers, these pay-per-views were all like 3 hours long back in the day.
Yeah, exactly 3.5 hours.
As you see on the clock, they're only about a little over 2 hours long. So there's a lot of filler in there that we don't even get to see on our screens. So you can only imagine during a live event. So of course, those guys got 15 to 20 minutes to just kind of do their thing. A lot of headlocks, a lot of like you said, plotting and to tell the story.
A lot of transitions and things like that. The one thing I did notice with this pay-per-view in the couple tag matches that they do have, utilized hot tags a lot more than I think we do nowadays. Hot tags nowadays are usually meant to end matches, which they do end matches. I think in this instance, in this match, a hot tag to Farouk did end the match after a couple minutes, and then another match down the card as well. But like I was saying, just in a little comparison to nowadays versus back then, I think the hot tag was a lot more utilized and a lot more like an adrenaline pump moment that actually worked. And every time they did do it, it didn't fall flat. It would actually execute it well.
For sure. And that's probably an ode to the older school bookers at the time. Guys and this is kind of where you can see Vince's input becoming more and more out front on the product than it was at this time. He was still very much involved, don't get me wrong, as far as the overseer, but when it came to the storytelling of each individual match, he didn't really have, at least it doesn't seem to be, he didn't have as much of a micromanager approach to it as he did, at least allegedly, until he left that position recently. So mostly because I'll say the two guys that are flanked to his side during this pay-per-view, the OG Stooges, Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe, those guys still being alive attest to the quality of these matches being better, because those guys are basically who taught all the guys that are booking stuff now how to wrestle and put on, at least the guys that wrestled in the WWE. So yeah, that was the main takeaways for me through the opener. But match ends, the baby faces win. Rock takes the pin, looks like a awkward slapjack. Shout out to Stevie Ray, kind of looked like a slapjack.
It was a dominator.
The Dominator, my bad.
It was a Dominator.
I didn't even hear him say it. It looked like a slapjack to me. But it was he just got him over his shoulder, actually, instead of just holding him like a pedigree and dropping him on his face. But yeah, like to your point about the story, that's the perfect cap to where Farouk got his payback. And then how about to end the match, the outside of the ring promos, like fresh out the match? I thought that was kind of different. I liked it because you can never do that in today's wrestling because it's so scripted. But that just shows you back in the day how much they had faith in those guys going out there cutting their own promos and not saying anything crazy on a live mic. So
exactly, and you blown up from the match. You got the adrenaline going from just wrestling for 5 to 15 minutes. It reminded me a lot of like courtside right off the NBA. They go and like Aaron Andrews and things like that, going interviewing people right off the courtside. That's kind of what it reminded me of. So it was really interesting seeing that. It kind of made me laugh a couple times. I know they did one with like Owen Hart and things like that. That dude went off but we'll get into that.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into it. But like I said, strong opener, opened my eyes because I'm so used to watching the current products just 5-minute opener or the opening promo or whatever it may be. So that was pretty cool. And speaking of promos, we get the most recently crowned WWF at the time champion, Stone Cold Steve Austin, comes out for an interesting promo. Number one thing, you hear that glass shatter, a 90s pop to Stone Cold. That dude could wake up any sort of venue as soon as you hear that glass shatter. But the actual meat and potatoes of the promo was pretty interesting. The number one thing I took a note of from watching this is just like, man, I just miss Stone Cold shitting on people and embarrassing people, and also live cuss words on the mic. Like I said earlier, privately owned company, way different ball game as far as what guys could and couldn't do.
Exactly.
So you got one grown man berating another grown man on live TV because of something he did on Raw in regards to ringing the bell when he wasn't supposed to because Vince McMahon said so. Very much shades of the Montreal Screwjob, which happened in the past November from this pay-per-view, 97 of that year, which I low-key do not want to discuss ever on this show because it's been beat to death so much. I don't know if we'll ever get to the Screwjob. We'll talk about it though.
There was something interesting that came from the Screwjob that applies really heavily here. If you listen to first of all Stone Cold's promo, and then Vince has a promo later on in the card, I think after the next match following this, he's leaning very heavily into the Mr. McMahon character.
Oh yeah,
so
origin stories for sure.
Yeah,
this is the origin.
This is the origin of the Mr. McMahon character. So everyone beat to death the Montreal Screwjob, which is cool, but no one talks about how the Montreal Screwjob was basically the whole birth of Mr. McMahon as we know him, which now is leaking over into the pay-per-view we're reviewing because he even made the comment, I'm not responsible if Stone Cold screws Stone Cold. Direct line from the Montreal Screwjob promo, basically. So it's a lot of heavy influence here on the Mr. McMahon character.
No doubt. I can't deny that influence on it. And I should clarify, when I said do a deep dive into it, I swear to every single wrestling podcast that probably exists on planet Earth has, unless they're just covering the current product, has a deep dive into that whole event. So I mean, if we get into it, great, but that is not my intention to ever talk about that because it's been done to death.
Cliche, I understand. For
sure. But like I said, watching Stone Cold berate another grown man in the ring and toss him around and say, hey, I'm talking to you, get over here type shit.
Everyone just terrorized when Stone Cold's cutting the promo.
It's so good, man. But as like you said, it was very much just furthering the origin stories of what was about to be the Vince McMahon, the Mr. McMahon character, and such an early origin into him. I'm sure we'll get into it a little later, but when we see him pop in and out of appearances in the ring, no chance in hell theme music yet. That's how early we are in the game. I low-key was like, wait a minute. No, like I was like, what the fuck? That's so the cool things about seeing Vince McMahon come out is the theme music.
Yeah, you're not used to it. He walks to the booze. He just walks down to the theme, man.
Him and his Stooges. Very interesting stuff. But after the Stone Cold promo, we then now go into I think, in my opinion, probably match of the card. In all honesty, as far as what's happening in the ring.
Okay.
As far as what's happening in the ring, so that's what we'll say there. I know we got the end of the show to recap, but these guys put on a clinic, but of course they did because it involves the soon-to-be game Triple H, the European champion Triple H. They're wrestling for the European Championship. You have Triple H accompanied by China, battling Owen Hart right before. Tough position for Owen Hart, by the way, where he's at in the locker room, on the card. You just have, as we just talked about, the screw job. His brother left. I think Anvil's gone. I think Bulldog's gone.
He's the final Heart that survived.
Yeah, so he's in a weird spot, man, around booking, and I'm sure we'll get into it here shortly as far as a certain promo he cuts into, as far as like what we're going to see in the future from Owen. But the number one thing was this is fallout from WrestleMania. So this is more of a traditional, as we talk about the current product, a backlash match where we have kind of a fallout from the past WrestleMania pay-per-view that just took place. But as far as entrances go, DX, gotta love the theme song. Can always pop from that. Who couldn't? Owen Hart's theme music, I hated this like fake,
it's trash
Crash Holly.
It's I even told my wife the first time I watched it, I was talking to my wife and I was like, hold on, just rewind it. That is the worst entrance music. I used to think Rob Conway, if you remember that guy, I don't know if you remember Rob Conway.
I low-key do. That name sounds very familiar.
So Rob Conway had some of the worst music ever. This is worse than Rob Conway. So if no one's ever heard Owen's Hart entrance music at this time, you need to go back and listen to it. It's pretty bad. But yeah, with the entrances, continue. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That needed to be said because that is some of the worst. It's like it could tell you how they felt about him backstage at the time. But like I said, this is gonna create something a little better for Owen, more historic in my opinion. But regardless, you got China, who has to be in the shark cage. The infamous gimmicked up shark cage. We've seen it a million times in wrestling. At this point, as far as what's happening in 1998, we haven't seen it since. I mean, from my eyes, RoboCop in WCW when he wrestled with Sting, and ripped an entire gimmicked up door off of off his hinges. So yeah, that's what I immediately thought of RoboCop when I saw this. But what did you think, Sha, when you saw this whole shark cage gimmick?
I liked it because just the sheer fact that China is just a force. You have to lock her in a cage, but not only just lock her in a cage, but suspend it 10 feet in the air. So even if she does get out of the cage, she's gotta fall from it. And so, and then you just look at this massive woman with, freaking linebacker shoulders that just, and you already know, okay, she's gonna rip out of it.
Oh
Easy.
yeah.
We already know, but I personally like the shark cage gimmick type of deal. It's pretty funny, especially like I said that you have to lock China up from just not interfering in the match.
Correct. And at the time that's why Triple H had her. She interfered in everything. She was always getting herself involved, low blows, getting in guys' faces, just
the
being
original enforcer.
Oh yeah, facts. And shout out to the Sergeant Slaughter. Follows the podcast on Twitter. Having to deal with that constant shenanigans, that was pretty hilarious. The Sarge at the time, you think Adam Pearce has it rough. Sarge having to deal with China, not fun. I think he even wrestles her at a certain point in time.
It's that China Sokoa, boy. You did not want to mess with her at that time. She run through anybody. I'm telling you.
China Sokoa. Oh yeah, she was her. If we talk about this era of him and her, she was her for sure.
That was her.
For sure. But yes, you had her in the shark cage, 10 feet above the ring. In the ring, you got Owen Hart and Triple H, in my opinion, putting on a low-key clinic as far as just like making the basic wrestling moves look better than what they should. Not to say that this was like any sort of like crazy like 7-star Dave Meltzer jerk off in Tokyo Dome affair, but they did their thing on a card that was not known for its wrestling. I should say more the gimmicky nonsense that's happening on it that we haven't gotten into.
It's the gimmicks and stories. That's it. This was the more technical match that
for sure
we were speaking of.
Absolutely. Anytime, like I said, you have Owen Hart involved in the match, and I'm sure Triple H probably loved working with him because of the way Owen worked with everybody. And Triple H I was also thought about this in that while watching this is Triple H can't be anything ever but a heel ever in his career. I don't think he's ever really been a face, and why would he be?
He has.
I wouldn't even. But it was like the weird DX like phase. I can't even. Because it was, I don't know. We'll talk about it in the future.
Well, there's a good quote from a man. Not a lot of people like him. He is involved in this pay-per-view, but Triple H is the guy that you put with the guy that makes a lot of money. That's basically what Triple H is. Triple H is a really good wrestler. He's a great wrestler, but he's going to be the heel that you put in front of the babyface that you want to make a story with or get reactions from or make people care. That's majority Triple H's role in his career, even in his later days. In his earlier days, not so much. There's different storylines within, the pre-DX, and then, even when he was in WCW's, the blue collar or white collared guy and all of that. But yeah, Triple H is the heel that you put with the babyface that you want people to care about, in my opinion.
Facts. That's how Triple H has made his biggest paydays, outside of other things he's done as far as marrying into the family and such. But yes, biggest paydays as far as his career is him being a heel going against one of the best baby faces at the time. But as far as the match goes, like I said, banger in the ring. Of course, DX involved in this match. China somehow, some way is doing like hanging off of the cage. I remember kind of like it brought back memories of a child of thinking like there's no way she can just drop down, like she's gonna hurt her leg.
Yeah,
like,
it's gonna mess something up.
Yeah, like that really bothered me. But as JR said, Road Dogg, that dastardly Road Dogg was nowhere in the cage in the back. And
you get the shot of him walking away in the back.
Absolutely.
And things like that.
So cheese. And then you got X-Pac coming down in the ring, causing further shenanigans.
With the fire extinguisher.
Yeah, sprays it in Owen's face. If nobody sees it, of course, or hits Owen in the face with it, I'm sorry. Ends the match. Trips is still the European champion. Speaking of the European Championship, I thought I wanted to bring this up to you, Sean. In your opinion, best European champion, and then after that, should they ever bring this title back?
I honestly think they should bring the title back. I think they kind of it's kind of weird because they got enough, international and technical wrestlers, because I would think they would view the European Championship kind of like a counterpart to the Intercontinental Championship. Kind of so like if the Intercontinental is on, on SmackDown right now, I would say European should be on Raw if they did some type of thing. But I think they definitely should bring back the European Championship. The best European champion, in my opinion, did Dean Malenko hold the European Championship at one point?
I don't recall it. A quick Google search is going to tell me that in a second.
I know like Jeff Hardy held it at one point or something like that. So, I mean, I guess I could say Jeff Hardy. But William Regal.
I know he held it.
William Regal is going to be my favorite European champion. I love William Regal and his old school heel character. He's great.
That's fair. I'd have to say my favorite European champion would have to be none other than the head shaking, frog splashing, chest plate wearing D'Lo Brown. That's always been my. Anytime I think about that title, D'Lo Brown comes to mind, no doubt. But as I go through the list, Dean Malenko,
did he hold that belt?
No, he did not. He never held that belt.
Interesting. Okay, I thought Dean Malenko held that belt.
No, I'm not seeing a Dean Malenko reign. Even Midian held this belt.
Wow,
Jeez.
Really? Midian?
I forget his other character. I feel like he was a Godwin or something, I think.
I know like what? God. I know like what? DDP held the belt.
He did. He was the...
Did Mark Henry have it at one point?
Mark Henry did have it at one point.
Mark Henry had it.
Mark Henry, as to jump ahead in time, to jump in the future Wayback Machine, he's the European champion at next year's Unforgiven, 1999 Unforgiven.
Tie-ins, look at that, tie-ins.
Yes. But yeah, and as far as D'Lo Brown's my favorite, and if they should bring it back, I think the only place that title belongs is NXT. If they do not do this NXT Europe that Dub is such a fanboy about, they should bring that European Championship to NXT to be the equivalent of like the North American title because there's so many like tweener mid cards in my opinion in NXT. That'd be a good thing for those guys to do. But that's for another show. Tune in Fridays for that type of information and talk. We're here to Quantum Leap and be in the past. And speaking of the past, as I said, Triple H retains interference from DX. Mm-hmm. No surprise there.
Yep.
Any closing thoughts on that match? Pretty much said it all, Sean.
Yeah, I mean it's classic heel shit. That's what I like. Like, Adam Page got cowboy shit. I like saying that's classic heel shit, bro.
Big facts.
Big interferences. It's that classic stuff that basically the bloodline does now. So I was a fan of the match. I always liked Triple H as a wrestler, and seeing China DX is probably my favorite faction as of right now. So yeah, that was just closing thoughts on it. It wasn't a big, long, blow up 7-star Dave Meltzer match or anything like that. Good start off for the card.
For sure. And the next match on the card, if BA was how he is now, this would be the smoking match. AKA, at the time, this is probably me cutting my PlayStation on to play a video game because I'm not watching this. Why is this on my TV? This would be the new Midnight Express, consisting of Bob Holly and I believe Bart Gunn.
No. You are incorrect.
Uh-oh.
You are incorrect.
Who are these?
It is Bombastic Bob and Bodacious Bart. The new Midnight Express. That's their names. You got Bob Holly out here in like what looks like a white Jerry curl down to his back.
Big facts.
And Bart Gunn in just some of the worst get-ups I've seen in like a while for a tag team, dude. I mean, this was pretty bad, man. I'm not even gonna lie.
Oh, big facts. Big facts. I don't know who Jim Cornette caught in the back doing some illegal stuff to somehow finesse NWA being in WWF at the time. He talks about it plenty on his show, his podcast now, about like how that all happened and whatever. Go listen to his podcast for that. I'm not about to get into that. What I will say is it was just like it reminded me of something that should have been on WCW Saturday Night. Like, why the fuck is this on WWF Wrestling in 1998? That's why I didn't understand any of that part of that.
That should have been a dark match. Like,
yes, it struck me as I even wrote it down. I feel like this match wasn't originally on the card. Like they needed to fill some more time, and they were like, "Look, you two and Cornette, go out there, do the NWA shit. Can we call up Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson real quick? Can they come and do their whole Rock and Roll Express gimmick? We'll just have it be just like 1983, the Midnight Express versus the Rock and Roll Express."
Yeah, I mean that's cool. It's a callback because, like, you remember both of us saying this is a weird time for the Federation. They're still getting away from the gimmicky old school wrestling and more towards the attitude stuff.
And they're competing with WCW while WCW is going right now.
Kicking they ass. Going. Yeah, bro. Kicking they ass. So, I mean, I don't know how much territory wrestling you've watched in your day. I've watched a little bit just from, my pops watching it and things like that. So it was a very NWA style bout, territory as hell. So they had you had the funny bits with Cornette trying to fight. I think it was Jim White. What was that? The referee?
Tim White. Yeah.
Tim White.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Tim White. Yeah, he was trying to fight Tim White and all that, all the gimmicky stuff.
Terrible.
Distracting the ref and roll ups and yeah, it was.
And this is the same guy on his podcast who gets mad about Orange Cassidy pulling the shit he pulls in the ring. Well, he's pulling the shit he pulled.
We could get into a whole nother topic.
The audacity of this man.
Like I said, we could get into the hypocrisy of Jim Cornette all day. So
facts. We will not. Man,
like I said, we won't go into that black hole. Trust me.
No, but not a lot to talk about in this match. This would have been if I was, like I said, 21 and over, like I am now. I would be stepping outside to smoke a blunt and come back in and see what's happening. And at the time in 1998, as we know, Attitude Era, a lot of gratuitous tits and ass on television, more than my at the time 12-year-old self probably should have been consuming. But we here, the evening gown match, Sable and Luna Sable versus Luna accompanied to the ring by Goldust, who's also in a weird stage of his whole gimmick.
The artist formerly known as Goldust.
Yes, this is when Goldust was wearing like weird like corsets and fucking makeup and pacifiers, and he was doing a lot of stuff. I think
trying to find himself.
Yeah, I think this is when he was really in that dark place at the time. So it's a little sad to see, but as we know, Dustin Rhodes does recover from all of this, so it's good to see that he is good now, but at the time it's kind of hard to watch that kind of stuff because you know what's going on behind the scenes. And speaking of which, I wanted to touch on Luna in this match because I don't know if anybody saw or you saw, Sean, the Dark Side of the Ring about Luna Vachon. And they particularly touched on this period of her life, and she was pretty depressed because of the stuff that's going on in wrestling. Luna Vachon is more of like an old school wrestler. She comes from the Vachon family, the family of fighters as they were branded. So Luna don't do this whole like tits and ass like to get eyes on the product. Like Luna wrestles dudes, like just like Sensational Sherry was more mixing it in with dudes as well. So she comes from a different era of women's wrestling. So that's the one thing that kind of stuck out in my mind as I saw this match start to lead up, outside of other things that I was just cringing over at the time. But what are your thoughts, Shai, about this whole presentation?
Look, man, I'm gonna read to you the exact note that I wrote. Okay.
Oh God.
This is it, and this is all right.
Oh shit.
Lana versus Sable, or Luna versus Sable, evening gown match. Not much I can say. Pretty terrible segment altogether. Just an excuse to undress Sable on TV. Hard pass.
Accurate.
That's literally the only thing I said about it.
My note, I have a couple things to say. The first thing I wrote down was yikes, but attitude era. King's cringe commentary, bro. Yikes. Yikes. This man says something to the tune of like, I'm about to be in cow heaven, milk those mommies, wham, 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 or something like that. Was just like,
what the fuck? What the fuck?
He should be lucky that somebody don't Joe Rogan his ass,
bro,
like they did him.
What the hell?
Somebody could just torch Jerry Lawler would have another heart attack if somebody like did a clip of him just running his mouth from the years of 1997 through 2018, basically. I feel like doing that whole gimmick stop.
That's why they got him off TV quick.
Yes, and that's why they only let him. The only live mic he's allowed is the pre-show of most PLEs now.
Pre-show. That's only on 25% of the time.
Man, I talked about Luna already, man. I did have this question about the Sable legacy. So it's a convoluted legacy in the WWF/E. As you know, or as you guys know, I'd imagine listening, Brock Lesnar's wife, now Rena Mero is her government name. She, I mean, as controversial as this is, she was a very, very big part of the Attitude Era. She drove a lot of eyes on that product. She made the WWF/E a lot of fucking money. But she also bit the head that fed her in Vince McMahon and came after him in court. And as we know, Vince McMahon don't play fair in the court of law. So with that being said, Sean, since Vince McMahon is in his late 70s/early 80s, I know we don't think he'll ever die, but being he is a mortal man, at least we think he will pass at some point. Do you think whoever owns the E in the future would ever let her be in the Hall of Fame? Or if she would even accept it?
I don't think she would accept it. I definitely think they would throw it out there. They don't care about the Hall of Fame, at least right now, as much as they did, I would even say, 10 years ago.
Talk more about that. I'm curious about that.
So, I mean, I don't know if you heard when Jeff Hardy was negotiating to come back to the WWE, they offered him a Hall of Fame spot. Just to throw it out there. Like, hey, we'll give you one if you come back. And it's just like, why wouldn't Jeff Hardy have a Hall of Fame spot? That's kind of weird. And so they put a lot of people in there. I'm not saying that don't deserve it, but like, it's weird to me. Why is Rey Mysterio in the Hall of Fame and he's not even retired yet?
True, unless they know something that we don't know yet, like he about to hang it up, like Ric Flair, for example. He got his ring for being Ric Flair. I know he got a whole nother ring for the Horseman, but he got his Ric Flair ring the weekend, or was and correct me if I'm wrong, the weekend he fought Shawn Michaels in his retirement match, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense though. I can understand that because you got one last shot going out. Rey Mysterio is an active wrestler that was still going after, he just fought for a title, two WrestleManias ago.
True.
He's still in feuds right now with LWO, Legado del Fantasma. That's what I'm still. So it's like, you just had storylines with your son and Bad Bunny and all these things like that. It's like he's still much an active wrestler, even at what was he, 48 when we looked it up? 48 years old, bro. Dude is 48 years old, still active wrestler. Like, don't get me wrong, Rey Mysterio is absolutely a Hall of Famer. I just don't think he should have got it while he's still actively wrestling. Like, they don't really care about the WWE Hall of Fame like they used to, man. It's not as prestigious as other sports or sports entertainment companies hold it.
I see. So you're kind of more describing it as like they use it as this bargaining chip to get talent that they necessarily don't have like this great, amazing relationship with, but they would love that person to be back on their TVs for the pop of the Hall of Fame and WrestleMania weekend and stuff. I got you.
Yeah,
I can't deny that. I mean, I've also heard like other guys kind of not recognize it because of some acts still not being involved in the Hall of Fame that should have been in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
Or the fact that Macho Man had to die to even get into the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of controversy around it when I break it down a little further. I can't deny that. But I was curious just because, like, I mean, as I cringe watched this match, that was one thing that popped up in my mind. I was like, Sable did a lot for the WWF as far as their global push, as we were talking about earlier, being more mainstream, of course, with Playboy and the fact that how she looked and who's usually attracted to that type of look, that played a lot into her push. So I would have been remiss to bring that up. But the last thing I'll say in closing about this match is at the end, JR teaching all the kids at home how to spank bank it by pausing the TV screen and how to exactly do what you need to do. So I was just like, rewind. Wow. Yeah, I was rewind. Like, bro, like, come on, man. I was just at the time as a kid, I was just like, thanks, JR, appreciate it. I'll buy some barbecue sauce in the future. But now, 36 years old, happily married, father of daughters, I was just like, oh, this is hard pass. Those the future Attitude Era matches cards are gonna be hard to watch, bro.
Dude,
period. Point blank.
I already know. We're gonna run into some funny stuff though, so don't even be worried. We're gonna run into some funny stuff.
For sure. And as we get into funny stuff here, or not funny stuff, depending on how you look at Vince McMahon and the Stooges walking down to the ring for their promo, so Vince can utter the lines, as you stated earlier, if Stone Cold screws Stone Cold, that's on him, basically, to paraphrase. Not a lot to really talk about here. It was a very kind of stale promo. McMahon finding the character that he has grown up over the years to be such a hated jackass, but that's who kind of you see here as far as the origin story. Any other thoughts that we haven't said about this promo, Sean?
I mean, like you said, pretty cut and dry promo, pretty quick. Vince always delivers, some at least decent promos. It wasn't boring. I think it was just to keep the heat for the main event going over the card, just because I know Vince probably knew there wasn't, I'm not saying it was a lackluster card, but he probably knew it wasn't all that to be desired. So
I see.
Yeah, so I feel like it was just coming out, hey, the main event is still this, I don't care about this, I'm not responsible for this.
Yeah,
things like that, just building up that tension.
And he knew furthermore that he was pulling the bait and switch by Dude Love, who we'll talk about being in the main event, had no business being in the main event. If you watch any of the Raws leading up to the build, it was all McMahon and Austin segments in the ring, but Vince McMahon wasn't wrestling yet. So that's all this was, to kind of continue to to throw it in the audience's face that you're not gonna see me get my ass whipped by Stone Cold tonight. And if you do, your boy's gonna lose his title. So on to the next thing, the phone line segments. RIP to the hotlines, the 900 numbers that Peacock made a specific point to let us know these phone lines are no longer active. No shit, Peacock. But I did have a question for you, Sean. It did bring up, did you ever as a kid call into the hotlines, or would your mom whoop your ass like my mom would have if she caught me doing that shit?
Okay, so I was never old enough to get a hold of the hotline. So
ruthless aggression kid. So you didn't have to deal with that internet.
But I don't know if you remember this. There was one time Vince McMahon was giving out money live on Raw.
What?
I don't know if you remember this. Vince McMahon was giving out money live on Raw. There was a big ass glass case full of money, and the only reason I remember this is because my dad bought into the kayfabe. Legitimately bought into the kayfabe, and he was calling our family members, and he's like, "Yo, call this number to try to win the money. If you get it, we'll split it." And like he's calling my uncles, my aunts. He's having my mom do it.
This man is the devil,
bro. I'm telling you, man. So that's the only time I've had an interaction with calling any sort of WWE number that wasn't affiliated with Bray Wyatt.
We'll have to figure out what Raw that is and go back and deep dive that Raw, because that sounds hilarious.
There's another one too that I want to talk about after.
For sure. But as far as the phone line segment, I never called into them. My mama would not have that. She already was ordering pay-per-views, so if I was calling in, that would have blew up in my face big time. I knew not to toe that line too heavily as a child.
Get the switch for that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the next match coming up on the card, since we didn't have anything happening after the phone lines, pretty much is the WWF Tag Team title match, consisting of the Tag Team Champions of the World, the New Age Outlaws, versus LOD Struggle-matic 2000.
2000.
Woo. I hate this iteration of LOD. But I will, to quote Road Dogg, representing that D, rolling on that X. I was just like, yo, it's the Attitude Era.
I love that. I heard that shit, and I'm like, yeah, different time.
Representing that D, rolling on that X. And if you go and listen to Road Dogg and his podcast, Oh You Didn't Know, he more than likely was rolling on X, according to the way he talks about his lifestyle at this period of time. He, not proudly, but is openly talk about how heavily he consumed substances in this period. And then also, speaking of consuming substances, his dance partner across the ring, Road Warrior Hawk, as we all know, R.I.P., had his own demons, some of which seem to have been showing up during this match in a couple spots. But
you can tell.
Yeah, there was a spot in this match where Hawk went to slam Billy Gunn, and he had to do let me make sure I got you. I ain't get you there. I had to slam. I'm like, oh, that looked bad. Just looked winded. I hate when I see Hawk with hair. That just tells me like, this is the rough. This is like I'm doing the bit where I fall off the stage in WCW in a couple years, Hawk, and just gives back all the bad feels. But what were your thoughts, Sean? I know you love the entrances and such, but what was your thoughts on the match in general?
So the match in general, LOD 2000. My parents were big Legion of Doom, or the Road Warriors is what they call them. So I knew them as Road Warriors growing up. Spots were good. It was an all right tag match. I always was a fan of Road Dogg's kind of weird style of wrestling. I don't know if you understand what I mean when I say that. He had like a weird swagger to it. Like, okay, I don't know if someone's gonna crucify me for this, but he kind of, how Dusty Rhodes has this swag when he delivers his moves and things like that.
Yeah,
it really reminds me of that.
He puts flavor on his movements. He put a little sauce in his
exactly.
In his
and I love how Road Dogg wrestles. He sells very well. His movement is fluid. It's not the quickest. It's not the strongest hits, but it's entertaining and it's enjoyable. It's believable. If you suspend disbelief, it's good to enjoy it. LOD. Little slow in the match. Like you said, Hawk had a couple spots here where, his demons may have shined through a little bit, where he wasn't really at his full potential, in my opinion. But there is another spot in this match where I was talking about earlier with the hot tags. Hawk arguably has the best hot tag of the match, or the night, really, in this match, where he comes through and just continues to clean house, I'd say, for at least like 2 or 3 minutes straight.
Yeah, strong baby face.
Yeah, strong,
towards the end of the match, if I remember correctly.
Strong, right? Baby, exactly. So that's how it goes. So you get a strong Hawk hot tag basically, and then you get more heel shit when they start coming in and whatchamacallit, Road Dogg and them start doing the heel shit and cheating. And then what really messed it up is when they started distracting the referee, didn't see the pin, and then he does the suplex. Hawk delivers a messy bridging suplex.
Yeah.
Messy
rough, man.
Suplex. And it's really rough. And even I was like, okay, I guess, that's how you're going to end the match. That's fine. And then what threw me off, which I've never really seen this before this time, is they play LOD's music, but the Fink announces that the Outlaws won. And I'm just like, oh, okay. That's weird. I've never seen that. Really weird match, in my opinion. It was enjoyable, but really weird match.
It was. I think they had to. I think that, speaking of Dusty Rhodes, the shoulder thing, that's considered a Dusty finish, correct? Where you kind of have the weird finish. You don't know who exactly won. And they also paid homage to this. In the future, as we jump forward, WrestleMania 36 with Becky and Ronda and Charlotte. The whole shoulder gimmick with Ronda, where she got upset about it. It wasn't necessarily the same because Ronda was saying her shoulders was off the mat, whereas here, both of their shoulders were on the mat, but it was as if Road Dogg was pinning Hawk, it was Animal, because Animal's shoulders were on the mat too. But regardless, weird finish, especially for the time frame in which it was happening. Just more heel shit. Heels doing what they do.
The whole belt shot and like missing the shot. That's what I was stumbling on, is the belt shot when he came in and he ducked, and then that's what led into the suplex and things like that. It was more heel shit, really wacky ending. I was cool with it. Kind of threw me off because I'm like I said, I've never really seen this pay-per-view that much before. I mean, I saw it when I was a kid. Like I said, when this originally aired, I was 1. So I had to go back and watch a lot of this stuff when I was a kid. So really wacky finish, in my opinion.
A little bit to be desired, but this is a pay-per-view to kind of get us to the next thing. It's not really like a conclusive type of pay-per-view. So it's as weird and clunky as it was, not surprised by DX doing DX shit, and this being very early in DX's kind of like origin story, at least this reiteration of it. Not surprised. They got to keep it strong.
With the heel turn by LOD at the end as well, which was kind of weird, delivering a devastation device to that ref.
Oh yeah,
them having to wheel him out on the stretcher and everything.
So
like
dramatic.
That. It was very dramatic. I was like, really? I mean, you saw the bump. Like I said, just a weird match. I don't know what it was.
And it kind of reminded me of like they kind of tried to play him like how Bret Hart started to go heel when Stone Cold and him were feuding. That's kind of what it reminded me of when I saw that shit when they Doomsday device that ref. But like you said, it just kind of didn't make sense for what was happening, not only in the match but the feud itself too. But much ado about nothing. I feel like Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, New Age Outlaws retain. Now on the Dub's favorite segment of this pay-per-view, the Double J concert by Tennessee Lee in WWF, Tennessee Colonel Lee. Robert Parker in WCW. Tell me why this man always has some sort of old Western gimmick. Like, why could he never do anything else?
It's the aesthetic. Just how the man looks, how, everything like that. It's the aesthetic, bro. If something rolls, just roll with it and keep it.
If it ain't
like,
broke,
why?
Don't fix
Yeah,
it.
exactly. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, bro.
For sure. No Brutus the Barber beefcake here as far as the millions of gimmicks that man had. Double J concert. And they let Double J get his shit off. Double J showing off how rounded of an entertainer he is. Not only can he wrestle, not only can he play the guitar, he can sing too. and sing over the heads of, I forget the name of the band that was performing.
I did too.
Yeah. And so did the WWF, because they didn't even advertise that being on this show. I didn't even remember it. And I saw this, and I was older than you when I saw this, so that just shows you how much of an impact this had. But the one thing that bothered me about this segment was, if Steve Blackman wanted to really like fuck up Double J, why did he let him sing his song and then came out? That was stupid.
Let him get his shit off. Fuck it.
Yeah, he still got fucked up.
He still got fucked up.
Caught the guitar from Tennessee Lee and everything.
Yeah, it was a segment, Double J segment. Yeah. I'm cool with it. It was nice comedic relief. I'd call it, honestly.
That's fair. That's all it should be. And speaking of comedic relief, do you think that Steve Blackman would have ever fared well if they would have gave him a new gimmick? Or do you think that he was never ever looked at to be able to do something different than the serious action star shit he was doing?
Yeah, that's really what it was just the serious action star shit. They were really heavy on that gimmick, and it worked for a while. I mean, he held different championships, and he was in a lot of different feuds. I personally enjoyed Steve Blackman when I was a kid. Now going back and looking at him, it seems a little bit cheesy. But
so
it's that
Steve-ish. He's such a Steve.
Yeah, man. Like it's a little cheesy now.
Yes.
But that was just the time that WWE was in, man. Like I said, it's a weird transitional period.
Big facts there. But that's pretty much all that came from that concert. Next match, the advertised match, where people bought this pay-per-view or were there to see. The biggest gimmick of the night, the Inferno match.
The first ever.
Yes, first ever Inferno match. Kane versus The Undertaker. Kane being accompanied by Paul Bearer to the ring. Now, again, more in the traditional sense of Backlash. This was a match that happened at WrestleMania 14. Taker whooped that ass. Whooped Kane. Man, oh man, do I miss OG Kane. That presentation, what that character did, what he meant, the different iterations of Kane over the years. I'm sure you can appreciate it even more so being a Ruthless Aggression kid.
I still had Kane, so
yeah. I feel like I didn't appreciate Kane when I had him. Now watching, and as we continue to do these shows, seeing Kane, I'm just like, damn, dude, that dude had that gimmick was it, man. So like I said, first ever Inferno match. Him and Kane and Undertaker are battling to see whoever gets set on fire first. As a kid, I should have known the guy without sleeves is probably not going to get burned. But hey, suspension of disbelief. Right?
Exactly. You don't think about those things. Just don't think about them, and it won't happen.
Right. One thing that stuck out to me as these guys started getting going was, God damn, it had to be hot in that ring, bro. These dudes are wearing a lot of clothes, especially Kane.
Kane got a full bodysuit with a mask, with flames shooting 6 feet.
And that mask don't look like a lot of air coming in and out of it.
It ain't a Rey Mysterio mask where he got the whole, thing. Nah, he got everything fucking covered, bro. That was unfortunate.
That mask looks rough. But yeah, what were things that stuck out for you from this match? That was the biggest thing that stuck out. But what about you, Sean?
So some of the biggest things that stuck out, it was really heavy into the gimmicky side of the match. So every time there was a big move, the flames would shoot up, and the commentators were trying to sell the shit out of the flames.
Yes,
which
they were.
I get it. It's a whole Inferno match. Cool. I mean, the dude's not going to get burnt to a crisp, but it was basically a Kane.
I was gonna say, sorry to interrupt. Even though they did set a guy on fire, a cameraman on Raw in the promo package, I did see that. Sorry to stop.
No, you're good. Like I said, it was very nostalgic for me because I saw both of these dudes, Kane and Undertaker, but at a very later point in their career. Mm-hmm. The main Kane for me was the slow chemical Kane, and basically just the pants and the gloves. He didn't have the mask or the torso stuff on. The Undertaker was very similar to this Undertaker, so the moveset was very familiar. I've watched a lot of Undertaker because my dad was one of favorite wrestlers really of all time.
Nice.
So just the gimmicky stuff, and then especially with Paul Bearer on the side, and then him and Undertaker having the history. Ooh, yeah, him and Undertaker having the whole history on their own.
Yes.
And then seeing another thing that happened in this match with being, privately owned is there's blood. Paul Bearer, I don't know if you remember, Paul Bearer goes and they go up on the Double J stage.
Yes, they
and
did.
Paul Bearer gets his head caved in with a kick drum, which causes him to leak. Dude,
I was like, shame on you, Percy Pringle, for that. Percy Pringle, his name was, and he was in the territories. I was just like, oh yeah, blade job all day. And furthermore, the part of the kick drum he got hit with was the open part. That's why I was like, come on, man.
Dude, that's why I was like, hey.
We were buying anything at that stage.
If you were in the nosebleeds, you can't even tell, bro. So who
Good
cares?
point.
Who
Good
cares,
point.
man?
Good point,
Who
bro.
cares?
So Paul Bear's leaking after that. The fact the match ends up outside the ring is nuts in itself. There was some touchy moments there. There was a suplex off the top rope that the Undertaker did on Kane, where I thought Kane was gonna slip off the turnbuckle. So there were some touchy moments, but Undertaker a pro. He do this. He not gonna let nothing happen to Kane.
Oh, Undertaker's safe. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, like you said, more of a gimmickier type of deal. Anytime there was a big bump, the flames firing up, and then even more so, you had Paul Bearer interfering in the outside, like you said, tried to get the Undertaker pissed off, didn't work. Pretty much ends with Kane getting knocked clumsily into the flames with his sleeved arm, and runs into the back to soon to be fire extinguished off, I'd imagine.
Off of some shitty chair shots, might I add.
Yeah, absolutely.
He had a little one to the abdomen. That was cool. And then he goes for another one, blocks it with a boot.
Real
and,
cheap.
Goes right into the flames. I saw that and I was like, wait, that's the match, isn't it? Because even the ring dude hesitated for like a good 5 to 10 seconds. He's like, wait, do I ring it?
Dude,
and then all of a sudden you hear the music and the bell and it's like, oh, okay, apparently that was it. He won. Cool. So like even the finish was like, wait, that's it? All right. Whatever, cool.
It was such a just whamp ending. But I mean, like, what do you expect? It's the first whatever. And you can't expect nothing crazy. Now, when I was listening to Road Dogg break this pay-per-view down, he was like, he could imagine the cool shit they could do now with an Inferno match. But yeah, it was just kind of like, it's cool to see. As a kid, I remember it being way cooler, for sure. But hey, it's just nostalgia for you, man. It's a motherfucker sometimes, good and bad.
Yeah,
nostalgia really helped this carry over in my mind until I saw it.
Nostalgia goggles are a thing.
Big time, man. But yeah, not much else to really discuss about this match, which leads us into our main event, the non-advertised main event for real of our newly crowned WWF champion Stone Cold Steve Austin battling Dude Love, albeit I love Mick Foley, love this gimmick, love Dude Love and all that Dude Love stood for, but he had no fucking business being in this match. The build was all, as we had discussed earlier, Austin versus McMahon, but they were just in a big mode of letting the bait and switches happen. Mr. McMahon was not in his final form yet, as far as him becoming more and more juiced over time.
Yeah.
So he wasn't ready to show off the guns yet, I'm assuming. But what's your thoughts initially about this main event, Sean?
So, if you're talking before the actual wrestling happens, before the if we're talking before the actual wrestling happens, it was the weird thing with the whole conspiracy theory that Stone Cold think is going on between him and Dude Love and Vince McMahon. He really had no business in this match, and I think that about a lot of Mick Foley's matches, to be honest. But at the end of the matches, they turn out to be, pretty decent, and we're gonna at least get into that one. The storyline was good. Knowing Vince McMahon was going to be involved and, he's going to screw Austin, at least try to, was pretty good. The promos that were cut, the build up with him attacking Austin randomly and then getting named number one contender out of nowhere was a little random. But like I said, it was a cool main event. Stone Cold Steve Austin damn near in his prime. champion. Why not? Just throw Dude Love. They try to embrace the more heelish shit with him, which in the actual match we'll get in more to. But yeah, kind of weird pair up, but I dig it.
Yeah. As far as the whole, just like you said, Stone Cold Dude Love pairing, it's not sexy on paper, which is probably why it was not heavily advertised. But Mick Foley's he's a sure bet. He's like how today Kevin Owens is used pretty much. He's gonna give you a good match. He's gonna work well. He's gonna be, safe for you, the opponent, but
Take
for him,
some bumps, man.
him, he's gonna be bumping around.
That's two things about him and Kevin Owens. They take bumps, dude. Yeah. Mick Foley takes a couple notable bumps in this match that looked really, really fucking painful.
For sure. But Mick Foley always got, I feel like in this era of Mick Foley from like 97 through 2002, he was Wild Boy. He had something in his mind where he felt like he had to do something crazy in his matches to stick out because the card was so competitive at the time. As a lot of those guys will talk about, you had about 10 top guys all vying for one spot, basically. Guys that would be top guys 10 times over in this era. It was a magical time in pro wrestling, both sides of the ball, as far as WWF and WCW, in my opinion. But the match itself, Stone Cold in his prime, like you said, fucking amazing. These dudes are all over the ring, in and out of it. Lots of crazy-ish bumps from Dude Love. Some rough looking stuff. But as you know, Austin must drink in terms of like Hogan must pose, Austin must drink. We were building up to that too. Towards the end of the match, you have a real dramatic event with Vince McMahon getting hit in the head. And this is, oh my God, I don't think they give out enough daytime Emmys for the performance that Vince McMahon put on getting on this gurney. It legit lasted about 15 minutes of the end of this match. Yeah. I got up and started doing other stuff while this was happening. But as we keep saying, weird time for the WWF. They're kind of figuring out how to get this edgier television off, like WCW has seemed to master at the time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, weird ending to this match with the whole gurney business with Vince McMahon, especially knowing who he is now. For him to take that long, get on the gurney, but hey, you gotta sell the heel shit, right?
Yeah, you gotta sell the heel shit, and there was a lot of heel shit and weird shit in this match. Like, you knew about, I think it was like halfway point, Vince McMahon comes down to the ring, Briscoe and Patterson. Patterson gets him a chair, sits down. Then you knew Vince was going to screw him, and I always say, I said he gave him the eye. What was it? Nick Jackson gave Hangman in that match. he gave that same eye to that ring keeper, like, hey, when I tell you to ring that bell, ring it. So yeah, man, like, and then they embrace Foley a lot with it, or Dude Love, I'm sorry, with his heel stuff, like attacking Austin, like, what was it, 2 or 3 times in the back, things like that, just like chicken shit type deal. The whole thing with the ring keeper not trying to ring the bell and looking at Vince McMahon scared and shit like that. It was, like I said, it's a weird ending. It's a Vince McMahon type deal with Austin, their whole feud. It was pretty interesting. I really enjoyed the story more than the wrestling. Mick Foley had some decent bumps, like the one that made me cringe, and I don't know if you remember this. Dude took a suplex on top of the steel stairs.
Oh yeah, I do. When you said it now, yeah.
God,
the stairs flew.
It's like that thing looked painful, and you can even tell in his face, like he might just be that good at selling. I don't know, man. But
caught a lot of his body unprotected. Caught a lot of that stair.
All of it,
like,
man.
The stairs like exploded after his body hit.
And then he took a full, yeah, man. And then he took a full. Austin threw him off a Double J's concert set onto the concrete, and it just sounded like a pack of ground beef slapping concrete, bro. It was so nasty. Yeah. But yeah, it was a little to be desired as far as the wrestling side. But hey, it's Mick Foley. He's gonna get an entertaining match, no matter if he's doing all this technical stuff or if he's giving you just clean Mick Foley, brutal bumps and storytelling type deal.
For sure, man. No doubt. It's It's funny to see, like you said, and I can't wait to get into deeper dives with you about the Mick Foley kind of get era and how him getting thrusted into matches. I can't wait to kind of hear these examples because I don't remember it like that. I remember even more. I'm sure you've heard it when the night he won the WWF title and Nitro and Tony Schiavone kind of dry snitching on it happening because at the time Raw was pre-recorded, so they were like, "Go tune in to Mick Foley winning the WWF title."
That is Tony Schiavone screwing WCW. That was known as the downfall, bro.
Yeah, because you told everybody to go change the channel.
They're like, trying to be funny, thinking like, people are gonna watch this, and you said, "Oh, Mankind's gonna win the belt. Who wants to see that?" Everyone's like, "Wait, what the fuck? Brock is losing, and Mankind is getting the belt. I gotta see this shit." And everyone changed the channel, bro. Yep. So it was
changed it back.
It never changed it back. It was pretty bad. Yep. It was pretty bad. But that could be a whole nother separate episode, to be honest.
Oh, best believe it. Like we ain't just talking about the Federation. There will be WCW shows we talk about. There's a lot of silly shit that happened in WCW. I'm not even talking about the 2000s. That's what everybody assumes the silly shit was from 99 to 2001. No. There was some silly shit happening from about 1993 to about when the NWO started cooking up in like 96. A couple pay-per-views that come to mind. But regardless, we got a lot of time to get into that, and I cannot wait to get into that with you, my brother. So that was this card, man. I gotta know, what was your favorite match on this card? Like you said, it wasn't really known for the wrestling. This is more storytelling involved. I mean, that's what we get with the WWF/E. But what was your favorite match?
If I'm talking entertainment standpoint, I'm gonna go with the Triple H match. The Triple H and whatchamacallit match. Owen Hart match. It was the most entertaining with China in the shark cage and things like that. The wrestling was good. I mean, it's a Hart. You're gonna get good wrestling from a Hart. Triple H has always been a good wrestler in my opinion. Just well-rounded match. Everything else was a bit shaky. Good runner-up for me, I was gonna say, is the New Age Outlaws and LOD match, just because I'm a New Age Outlaws fan. That's purely bias. So
hey, that's a fair bias. I'm here for that. Those dudes on the mic, especially being a kid at the time and saying a lot of that stuff in school, definitely pop for it. And always pop for those guys.
Shout out to Billy Gunn for still wrestling.
Yeah,
that man is insane, bro.
He does not look too different than how he looks in this time frame.
He got some wrinkles, that's it.
Yeah, a little bit, understandably so. It's fucking almost 30 years later, man.
Exactly.
Pure insanity on that front. But as far as my favorite match on the card, I would have to give my flowers, kind of gave them already, to the Trips match, but to be opposite, just because, shout out to E-Ray, he hates anybody agreeing on anything on a podcast, so I'm just going to shout him out. I'm going to say my favorite match then that comes in second place would have to be the opener, surprisingly, because it just surprised me because I was so used to the style of today with how opening matches are, albeit NXT sometimes the best match of a show, or you have WWE, or you have the Raw or SmackDown where it's just, it could be a promo, could be something just to get your eyes to say, hey, wrestling's on. So that was it may not have been like necessarily like the most technically sound match, but it was the match that jumped off the card to be the most, as far as when I cut the TV on.
I feel that.
For sure. But in closing, there was a comment, I wanted to hear your thoughts on this, Sean, around that Road Dogg said about this time in wrestling, as I referenced the episode he just recorded, almost in conjunction. Get out our brains, Road Dogg. With this review, as far as what was happening as a renaissance in wrestling at that time frame. You had 97, 98. This was the year that they knocked WCW off their 83-week winning streak. And the rest is history as far as them going off to put WCW out of business and making WWE, at that point in time, the humongous powerhouse conglomerate that ain't going anywhere anytime soon. So I asked, with wrestling where it's at currently, a lot more mainstream eyes, not to the level of what it was at that time, where you had like the guys in the NBA Finals showing up on your wrestling screen and Dennis Rodman and Carl Malone. I ain't saying that, but I can't remember in recent history where wrestling has been as enthralled in the mainstream as it seems to be becoming again. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you kind of agree with that, or do you feel like we still stuck in the mud and we just like the fun thing to talk about when nobody is that the popular kids are away from the lunch table, so to speak?
Nah, I think it's becoming a lot more mainstream. Especially, I think there was a point in like the early 2000s as well when, you know, everybody knew who the fuck John Cena was. There was that point, but now I think it's becoming a lot more mainstream and a lot more popular. Like I tell, or not even tell people, I talk about it sometimes with people that'll listen, but it's like with AEW, it's like a perfect example. AEW has been active, what, 4 years maybe?
Yeah, we're getting there. Yep.
4 years. They are on track to do a show in Wembley Stadium, which is how many people? Like 80,000 people,
something like that. 80, 90.
Yeah, I mean, dude, 4 years and AEW is already like this. I mean, they've already beaten Impact, which TNA Impact has been around since the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Late 90s.
Late 90s. Yeah, they kind of came strong when WCW went home.
Late 90s. They've already surpassed every single indie promotion that's already came out. I'm not like a big AEW guy, but for a wrestling promotion to blow up that quick, especially in the 2020s, is a very big deal with how mainstream it's going, to be honest. And especially with WWE bringing in a bunch of celebrities, doing 70,000 plus shows almost every other month type deal, 50 to 70,000 people. It's a lot. It's a lot. They're going to a lot of eyes. They're getting a lot of social media interactions more than anything. You know, they're getting millions. I think the belt, the WWE Heavyweight Championship that Triple H just revealed, got like 1 million views in like 12 hours or something like that. Oh,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, bro. It's like they're getting a lot of eyes on wrestling, so it's definitely becoming more mainstream than it's ever been before. I wouldn't say more than back then, because back then wrestling was a whole different monster, like territory type deal, and you know, everybody just going out watching the show, things like that. But it's getting damn near close when they were doing 100,000, venues and things like that.
Yeah, man, shit's exciting. I kind of feel the vibes too. As people have heard me talk about on Let Me Book every week, I wasn't that enthralled in the product until I want to say about 2017, 2018 is when I started watching on the regular again. And now on a weekly basis since I started on the show. So, I mean, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just because I'm in this bubble of wrestling that, man, this shit seems to be kind of like phasing into other things in life that I like music. A lot of the artists I like we talk about Fourth Rope, West Side Gun, all them dudes heavily involved in this shit. Rick Ross is in you see him popping up in AEW
with Swerve and things like that.
That's wild. Yeah, so it just made me kind of think like where we at right now with the current product, and if we'll ever kiss what that used to be. I don't think we will anytime soon, at least, but you never know. We never say never in this world, right? Especially in the world of wrestling.
Exactly.
So with that being said, this was the first episode of Let Me Book the Territory presents The BA Show, featuring Sean from Fourth Rope. So thank you, Sean, for joining me, man, on this personal endeavor I am taking to further put Let Me Book on the map, bring the nostalgic ears and eyes to us. So thank you, man. So tell the good people where they can find you, my friend.
It's only one place, man. It's Fourth Rope on Twitter. That's it. I have nothing else.
Big bet. So
nothing else.
If you want to see the man, go follow him on Twitter at Fourth Rope. Great follow. Definitely has great dialogue in the IWC. Definitely trying to bring sense to an unsensical world that is the IWC. So I appreciate my brother greatly in these Twitter streets that can become sometimes treacherous. So yes, and as you guys know, if you listen to Let Me Book the Territory, you can find us every Friday afternoon, new episodes talking about the current product, putting our special spin like the only way the fellas can. And you can also follow us at Let Me Book Pod on Twitter, at Let Me Book Pod, Let Me Book the Territory on Facebook, and at Let Me Book Pod on Instagram. Also, go check out the website. We just started up a website, letmebookpod.com. It's currently in the foundational stages. No judgment yet. We getting it together. But now that's a place of a one-stop shop to find all of our content that we're releasing. Not just our main feed stuff, but soon to be Let Me Book the Territory presents the BA show. You will find it there as well. So we figured as we kind of start to grow, we got to start getting our stuff together. We got to look a lot more together because there's a lot more ears coming to this product, because at the end of the day, we are the most influential, most almighty podcast there is. So in closing, as the illustrious tribal pod chief would say, everything is wrestling. Until next time, we will get our nostalgia on. We don't know what pay-per-view we're going to review, but I know y'all will be here to listen to it. Peace out, good people. See y'all on the other side.
Deuces.